Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
You keep saying you got something for me, something you call love, but confess, these boots are made for walking.
Has anyone been dumped on Valentine's Day who's listening to the show? I mean, there's a lot of news out there, but I refuse to cover it. I'm not saying dossier. I am not talking about Trump. I am not talking about the Obamas purposely inflaming racism with the portraits now, with the commie portraits. I am not going to talk about the neocon warmongers cheering the Russia-U.S. clash. They're cheering the death of 200 Russian troops. A sicko in the New York Post named Peters is actually applauding the death of 200 Russians. It's astounding to me. The same man who never clapped when ISIS was killed is now clapping when the Russian boys are dead. I'm not talking about it, though. I want to talk about Valentine's Day for a moment and why some small restaurants hate Valentine's Day. I know, okay, that sounds like, don't even say that. They don't make enough money on Valentine's Day. It's the amateurs go out, less table turnover. Tables normally used to seat 4 and now only booked for 2. Higher labor costs due to the extra manpower needed to handle the crowd. They're shifting to pre-fee menus so that you don't sit there for 8 hours ordering a meal. They want to speed you up with a fixed price menu. Okay, but that costs them money because they can't sell you dinners on higher priced, more profitable menu choices. You're going to get higher food costs like on lobster. People like to show off. Owners have to spend extra on festive extras to give away to customers, like glasses of garbage champagne or roses. But basically, restaurant owners don't like this. Have you been dumped on Valentine's Day is what I'd like to hear for a few minutes. If you don't want to call on it, it's your problem. I think it would make for a fun show. At half an hour into this first hour, we'll have HUD Secretary Ben Carson on, hated by all of the people on the left who claim to like people of color, except when they are conservatives, and brilliant like Ben Carson. They actually try to ridicule Ben Carson, who's a neurosurgeon, and a pediatric neurosurgeon at that, which, by the way, you can't fake. Oh, you can fake being a president, as we saw with Obama. You could talk your way through it for 8 straight years when you own Wolf Blitzer and more snotty nonsense by chicks. But Ben Carson's a pediatric neurosurgeon, which is about as difficult as it comes to become, and yet they ridiculed him. He shows you the racism on the left. It's shocking. He'll be with us to talk about not pediatrics nor neurosurgery, but homelessness, because he's the head of HUD. There's an article on my website which you have to look at, because if I'm not for myself, who will be? Savage Rules New York Talk. I know you don't want to hear it. Many of you are just going to be green with envy. But I'm once again the top talker in New York City radio. For years running, 2 years running, Savage has dominated Gotham's talk airwaves as the Savage Nation has consistently ranked as the #1 program on WABC since April 2016 with the key demographic of adults 25-54. Although Savage broadcasts from San Francisco, Savage has remained close to his roots as the true voice of New York. Beating Sean Hannity for years, New Yorkers have come to expect Michael's acerbic wit and higher education to get them through their difficult days. From politics to pasta, you get the picture. And it's up on michaelsavage.com. I invite you to read it. And we'll talk about those topics. We'll talk about, have you ever been dumped on Valentine's Day? I still want Valentine's Day horror stories. I myself don't believe in these holidays. To me, they're invented by greeting card companies, gift companies. Look, everyone's got to make a living, right? So in order to sell things, you need holidays, so you invent them. I don't even know where it came from. It's like St. Paddy's Day drove the snakes out of Ireland. Where'd they all go? I don't even know where the snakes went. Why do we celebrate St. Patrick's Day? I have no idea. We're not in Ireland, and there's no snakes here to worry about, except those on the left, like Shifty Schiff. He's the kind of snake who should be forced to live in Ireland. Meanwhile, the neocon warmongers are cheering the death of Russians, and they cannot wait for a blowout between the U.S. and Russia. They're actually cheering war with Russia. Can you believe this? And they call themselves conservatives. This is how sick the country has become. That's why I'd rather talk about Valentine's Day horror stories. You know some of you are getting dumped tonight. You just know it. I don't care if you've not been dumped. You're getting dumped tonight. Either she's going to tell you she never wants to see you again, or she's going to tell him that she does want to see him again, and he'll say, I don't want to see you again, or vice versa. That's what happens. There'll be a lot of Emmett Kelly tears tonight. Tables around America. Why am I laughing? It's inappropriate. I have no idea why. Actually, I do know why. I'm feeling good. I know it. Here's one got dumped on Valentine's, and they're coming into the theater right now. KBET, Las Vegas. Let's go for it right away. Let's not even talk about it anymore. I'm asking you, if you're out there and you want to get it off your chest and call old Doc Savage, do you have a Valentine's Day horror story? It doesn't have to be dump. It could be something else. Maybe a girlfriend told you she's running off with her sorority sister. That doesn't mean you were dumped. She could have invited you to come along. Given that you live in Boston or New York, that's commonplace. I mean, look at the demographics today. Paul on KBET line 2, what's on your mind? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I got dumped on Valentine's Day. Got a divorce papers served to me on Valentine's Day.
In the house or in a restaurant?
No, in the house. I had that served to me right in my house on Valentine's.
Oh, were you alone or you were with her? How did this happen?
Well, she just didn't want to be with me anymore.
How many years had you been together before she dumped you on Valentine's Day?
13 years.
Now, I can hear the pain in that one. How many children?
4.
Oh. Now, what was her reason for leaving you?
Well, because I was not making enough money, and she did not work.
Okay, so who did she marry?
She didn't. She went to Columbia College, the big liberal college forever. Now she is working as a clinical psychologist for the Catholic Church.
Well, there's plenty of money in that.
Yeah, not much.
Plenty of money in that. They ought to start with the priests.
Yeah. But I'm doing okay. I mean, I went through this. This happened like at around 2000.
Well, don't say 1982. It'll date the show. Let's say it happened a while ago. Did you pick up the pieces and meet someone else?
Pardon me, I didn't hear you.
Did you meet someone else or not? Or you're still alone, schlepping on a sofa somewhere?
I want absolutely nothing to do with women anymore.
Oh, that brings a smile to my old lips. It's not like you're not like going over to the other side, are you?
No, I'm not going to the other side. I'm 66 years old. I've done a lot.
Well, that never stopped most people in San Francisco. They have a renewal of life at 60. They decide the other side is the way to go. They get the high heels, the dress.
Yeah. Dr. Savage, I'm a published author. I've got 2 novels out there, and I've done tons of forestry and geology. I've fought forest fires and all this stuff. I've done tons of.
I guarantee you there are women listening to this show right now who probably like to meet you, but I'm not doing dating today. I've done it before. It always ends in disaster. I put people together. Once I got a marriage out of it. Actually, they called me from the Marines Memorial Club here in San Francisco, or I met them. They actually met on my show when I was a local host, and they got married. But other than that, it's usually really bad people looking for women. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, you're not looking for a date, are you?
No, I'm not looking for a date. Like I said, I am not interested.
But you're a published author. You talk slowly, and someone could easily dismiss you as slow-witted. But I can hear underneath it, you think carefully before you speak, unlike me. So, but the question is, you're quick of mind. You're telling me women don't find you attractive?
No, I'm very attractive. You can look me up on Facebook or on my fucking.
But you're off women for the rest of your life.
No, I'm off women for the rest of my life. I don't want anything to do with them. I'm 66 years old. Okay.
Yeah, but you keep saying that like that's you got a foot in the grave. I don't know why you say I'm 66 years old. I look at Hollywood at 67. They're marrying a 22-year-old and having a baby.
Yeah, well, they
Look at Mick Jagger. Look at Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stone. He's on his 6th wife. She's about 20 years old. He's got an infant. It didn't stop him.
Yeah, I know, but I've got enough kids. One of them is adopted, so I have 3 biological kids and one's adopted. You know, that from another.
All right, look, I'm not encouraging you to go out if you don't want to go out. You're probably bored of it anyway. You want to listen to someone's life story? You know how boring it is to actually meet someone and start all over again? I can't imagine.
I've got my artwork I want to do.
How can you sit with someone you don't know and ask them about their parents and where they went to school and what bothers them? How do you really want to do that again at 66?
No, I'm continually active with my children, and they're all...
so your children are your life. I get it. Well, since you're such a good sport, I can't send you any free flowers. I cannot send you Trump's war. I cannot send you Teddy and Me. But I can send you God, Faith, and Reason, because you're a man who sounds like you need some God, because you have faith and reason. Stay on the line. Jim, who is sitting there, will take your phone number. That got us through the first stop, set at 17 minutes after the hour. I'm in a kind of weird mood because it is Valentine's Day. People don't want to talk about murder and death and Republicans and the Constitution and Shifty Schiff and the ins and outs of every detail of everything going on by the expert who knows exactly who said what and when the dossier was sent and when the memo was read and how the memo was upside down. It was in invisible ink, but only people on the radio have the ink that they can look in the light and see what's inside the dossier. I'm not doing it. I'm going to do this. I'm taking a big chance. And since I rule New York talk radio for 2 years on WABC, I'll take the chance of being myself. And what will happen is this. Either people will say I like the way he's going, or I don't like it, and that's the end of it. You go what you have to do. You have to do. So I want to do this for another segment or so, which is Valentine's Day horror stories. I happen to be in San Francisco right now, in a studio I have not been in 4 years. I'm not going to tell you where it is. I used to use this studio repeatedly when I was with my previous incarnation of radio. I did shows out of this place for 10 years. But I've been paying for an ISDN line here for all the years since I started with the Cumulus. I've never been here. I've never done a show in it. I love this place. I'm excited to be here. And I don't know what I'm going to do later on when the show is over. Am I really going to go out to the restaurants and see the amateurs? I mean, it's sweet. I'm not knocking. I'm not that cynical. I'm not Scrooge McValentine. It's nice to see people who love each other. But unfortunately, I'm too cynical to enjoy any of it. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Tell me what to say.
Sitting there looking at the local paper, another 49er was arrested. How many of them have not been arrested? How is it? Where do they get these guys from? Foster's latest arrest puts 49ers between business, rock, ethical, hard place. How many 49ers have not been in and out of jail? Why does anyone go to their games? I don't understand this. How did this happen? Football used to be a clean sport. Now it seems everyone's in and out of prison. How did that happen? I used to look at the Army-Navy game. They're running the slush, the snow. I admired them. I don't watch football anymore. I don't want someone who spits on my flag. There's more I could say, but it's national radio. I'll have to hold it for when I'm a blogger, which I hope doesn't come sooner than later. Bloggers, the latest thing, blogger. I'm a blogger. What do you do for a living? I'm a blogger. How much you make a year? Well, nothing yet. I'm about to be discovered one day. Blogger. Used to call it graffiti, a blogger. Someone who wrote stuff on a toilet wall. That was a blogger. There was a spray can in the toilet stall. Now they do it on like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Am I loud enough, Robert? Did I fix the mic feed? The studio's working. It's astounding. Okay, Valentine's Day horror stories. What happened to you? KSFO, Randy. I knew this was coming. Tell us your story, Randy. It's sad.
I just we're married for 18 years and we're happy. Had a couple kids, and then at Valentine's Day at a restaurant, she said she was gay. She was gay.
Wait. Your wife told you she was gay on Valentine's Day? How long ago?
7 years ago. Actually, 8 years ago. Sorry.
And how old was she when she would discovered her true sexuality?
Only God knows.
Well, okay. How old was she when she left you?
She was 39.
Mm-hmm. Is she living in bliss now with her new girlfriend?
Of course, you know me, Savage.
No. Is she living in bliss with her new girlfriend?
Oh, yes. Yes, that's true.
No, I'm saying she's happier than she was with you.
That's I discern pretty well. I discern people pretty well, and we're civil with each other. So
I'm saying you think she's happier with her girlfriend than she was with you.
Not actually happier, but she's happy. I discern she's at peace and happy. But
all right, well, look, to each his own. What are you going to do?
I know.
Each his own. Well, there's more I could ask, but it's a national talk show. I can't. Have you started to date again, or you're still a little, afraid?
3-year hiatus. There's no women, but I told myself 3 years. It lasted 3 weeks, and then I said I went downtown and go all over and meet beautiful women. Married a beautiful Italian. Was married for a year, and it didn't work out. She was way younger than me.
Oh, you said you dated someone for 3 years? Or down? I didn't follow it. You went downtown. What'd you do downtown?
After we got a divorce, when she told me and she served me, I was pissed at the whole world and told myself I was going to go on a hiatus. No women, no dating. I was just going to focus on my business, my company. I'm an engineer. But then I thought, oh, you're being selfish, Rich. You need to share your heart with other people. So I started. 3 weeks later, I started going downtown, Sacramento and San Francisco, and loved the city and met lots of beautiful people.
What do you mean by going down? You go downtown and suddenly women come running up to you? What do you mean go downtown? What is that? Is that a secret code word for something? You mean massage parlors? What do you mean by going downtown?
I
can see why she left. I'm sorry. I'm saying there's some fun for me. I don't know what he's saying to me. He went downtown. What does that mean?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
This brings a smile to everyone's lips. I know it does. Let's just run through it for a second. And now we go to a really important topic. Well, to me it is. I've been talking about it for years, which is homelessness. And we don't know anything about it, other than it's out of control in San Francisco. The city spends over $1 billion a year, and there's no benefits, so far as I can tell. And with us right now is a man I respect greatly, the esteemed pediatric neurosurgeon and Secretary of HUD, Secretary Ben Carson. Dr. Carson, I presume, thanks for being with us on the Savage Nation.
Very good to be back with you again.
So what's going on in the homeless world? Are we making any strides? Are we getting anywhere?
Well, you have to look at the big picture. If you look at the big picture, we're definitely making strides. But when we look bi-coastally, particularly in your area, the cost of renting, the cost of buying is escalating much faster than people's income. And as a result of that, you're seeing a significant amount of homelessness there. Clearly, we're going to have to think out of the box a little bit to get this under control. And we have to look at the data also. The data tells us that it actually costs less money to house someone than it does to leave them on the street. And so we have to take that into consideration and think in terms of housing first, second, and third. First, you put them in a place. Second, you figure out why they're homeless. And third, you fix it. Because we have to take advantage of the fact that our people are our most precious cargo. They're our most precious asset.
Well, okay, I agree with that in principle, but, I'm a more traditionalist when it comes to this. If I look back to the era of the Great Depression, I wasn't, alive then, but studying it, people had no place to live. They were migrants, went to migrant camps to work. The Grapes of Wrath by Steinbeck is a model of that. I know we're way past that point. We're living in a socialist nation in many ways. But where is it written that people are entitled to a home?
Well, they're not entitled to a home. But again, going back to the data, if you leave them on the street, what happens? They end up in the emergency room.
I agree 100%. It costs more because of the amount of social services they absorb. So what would be wrong with, and you're thinking out of the box. I know this is controversial. I don't want to put you on the spot. I've said it on the air. Why can't we build housing for them in areas that are way out of cities, 100 miles out of the city, and very inexpensive land, clean them up, give them the help that they need, and rehabilitate them in sort of housing that we provide by the government?
There could be a whole variety of different solutions. Now, one of the things that has worked very well are public-private partnerships, where we build into a neighborhood housing that is affordable. But the more important thing to do is really fix the economy, which is in the process of happening right now, so that people actually have jobs, so that they have the possibility of jobs, taking advantage of things like Section 3, which has been on the books for 49 years, and it says if you're receiving, subsidies from HUD, you're receiving grants from HUD, then you have an obligation to hire and train some of the low-income people in that area, because we must recognize, and this is a hard pill to swallow, but we, the federal government of this country, has been largely responsible for what's happened to people. We've created this dependency, and a lot of people don't actually know a different way. I think we have an obligation to show them that there is a different way and help them to get there.
Well, I agree to a certain extent, but the old adage, you give a man a fish and he'll be dependent on you for the rest of his life. You give him a fishing rod and he'll learn how to fish.
Correct.
But not everybody, but Secretary Carson, you know and I know, not everybody wants to work. The drug addicts are not capable of working. Many of them are mentally ill who belong in mental hospitals. You're never going to get them to work. What are we going to do with the mentally ill who are in the streets?
Well, the people who are truly disabled, including those who are mentally ill, including many of those who are quite elderly, I think as a society, we have an obligation to just take care of those people. I'm really talking about the work-able people, and what can we do to make sure that they actually develop the talents that they have and move into the section of success in our society. It is possible to happen, but in many cases they don't know that. In 30 states, it is possible to actually gain more money from entitlements than taking a minimum wage job. And there was a time when people would take that minimum wage job and they would say, I'm going to get skills, I'm going to make contacts, I'm going to get opportunities to climb the ladder, I'm going to be better off. And they would be right. But a lot of people have forgotten about that. They don't think that way anymore. We have to show them that there is a better way.
I agree. I agree again, 100%. And society has an obligation to take care of the needy, but not at the expense of the taxpayer to the extent that it is currently costing us. When I looked at a story last week of New York City and the cost of housing homeless people in hotels in Manhattan at over $250 a night for a room, I knew something was wrong. But Secretary Carson, we also know that there are people scamming the system, not just the homeless. Who owns those hotels? Who's getting the contracts from that city of New York government? $250 a night for a homeless person while other people are breaking their backs paying the taxes? People are very fed up with this story in a way.
Yeah, I'm kind of fed up with it too, and we're looking for and finding, quite frankly, a lot of that kind of thing and dealing with it. But, it is deeply baked into our system, and it's like turning around, an aircraft carrier. But we're doing it. We're going to do it. It has to be done, because when you look at the debt that we're accumulating, $20.5 trillion, but by the year 2048, every penny that the federal government takes in will be spent on servicing the debt. There'll be no money spent. There'll be no money for anything. And countries who have neglected that in the past have suffered. Everybody has suffered. We've got to be smart enough to do something about it now.
Well, if anyone could do anything at all and make a dent in this problem, it's you. I mean, you're a brilliant guy with a great background. You care for people. You didn't get the job because you just simply wanted a patronage job. You're a very distinguished man who's helped people your whole life, and I hope that you can do something about the homeless problem, Secretary Carson.
We're going to do it. Keep hoping, keep praying, but believe me, we're going to get it done.
Well, you're a dreamer. You're an American dreamer, and I think American dreamers should dream first. Secretary Ben Carson, thank you for being with us on the Savage Nation.
Thank you. Good to be with you again.
Thank you. 41 minutes after the hour. Now we're going to go back to a trivial topic. Not the Florida high school shooting. It's another nightmare. 20 to 50 victims still active. Who did this one? We don't know. Who crashed into the NSA building? We don't know. No release yet. We don't know. We don't know. Nothing. But what's coming next? The shooting is getting me sick every day. The Olympics, the shooting, Kim Jong mentally ill, being glorified by CNN, Romney ready to run for the Senate. You want me to say something about that? Good luck, Romney. Republicans up in the polls, that I saw. I knew that was coming. It's all economic. So I want to go back to the Valentine's Day horror stories for a few minutes. What happened to you on Valentine's Day? Did someone dump you? Because, tonight's a big night. You're going to go out. You don't know what's waiting for you. You got the flower. You got the water. And you're going to put the breading on yourself. And you're going to go out there. Maybe you're going to give her flower. Maybe she's going to say, I don't want to be with you anymore. What are you going to do? Or has it already happened to you? And a caller said, what happened? So let's see what's on the line here. Hector on call screener, could you tell him to hang up his radio? He's saying yes, but you didn't tell him till I got him. I'm going to go to John on line 9. Tell him to hang up his phone or something. John on line 9, what's your sad story?
All right, Mike, Valentine's Day is just another bootleg holiday, but guys, don't you ever forget it. And Mike, congratulations. Hannity can be replaced by a parrot, and listening to Ann Coulter is like getting hit over the head with a Valentine's card every day. Now, my story revolves around where I actually lost 2 girls on Valentine's Day. Before I was married, I was going out with 2 girls at the same time. But the only problem is when Valentine's Day rolls around, you got to be Harry Houdini, and we're not Harry Houdini. So I had to pretend I was going to work that day, and I had to work. But one of the girls I went out with late that night, she came back to my apartment. It's about 11 o'clock at night, and you guessed it, folks. The doorbell is buzzing and ringing and ringing. And I'm saying, no, the other girl must have went home. She didn't. The other girl's at my door.
Yeah, but you were two-timing both of them.
Well, the both of them I couldn't go out with. I had to tell them I was working. I was working late, so I went out with one.
No, but weren't you lying to both girls?
Yeah, but I was a little bit younger at the time. It's a little more acceptable.
All right, so when you're young, you're allowed to lie. It comes with the territory.
Right.
You weren't a Boy Scout.
Right.
So they both found each other at the same moment in your apartment, and that was the end of both of them?
No, I told both of them I had to work. That's the only way I could explain to them I couldn't see either one of them, because I couldn't go out with them because, I had 2 girlfriends that day. I couldn't be seen during the, out during the regular hours. So, I don't
understand, but what I'm asking you is, did both of them find out you were dating someone else and dump you that day?
Well, of course, because one of the girls I went out with later that night, she came back to my apartment about 11 o'clock that night. The other girl, I obviously was a little suspicious. She comes to my apartment ringing the doorbell. Now I got the other girl in the house and the other girl outside the door. It was over, Mike. I lost both of them that day.
Yeah, but you're not married. It's not like you were married and cheating on your wife. You were dating girls. Didn't they know you were out playing the field?
Well, neither one of those girls knew I had another girlfriend. They just...
All right, so basically you're making them feel like they were the special one.
In a way, yes, because guys have to do that no matter what. I did everything to a T. Textbook. Girls love to have stuff on Valentine's Day sent to their jobs. Both of them, I had stuff, flowers and candy sent to their jobs, right? I text them a message and stuff. They love that. That is
all right. So both of them found out and dumped you. So that was that. And since then, you met someone or not?
Well, now I'm married now. So I'm just telling this story now because it's safe. I'm going to be taking my.
I understand it's a funny story, but yeah. I hope you're straight with your wife, right? You're not giving her the business, are you?
Oh, of course not. I would never. You know what? My philosophy is, Mike, is if I have to do something like that, I'm not getting married. I'm going to be loyal to one girl. You meet the right girl, you're dumb if you're not loyal to her.
That's beautiful. See that? At first, we would have thought you were a bad guy. Now we actually all like you.
Nah, I was a bit younger. Come on, all guys are in those predicaments and stuff. Mike, listen, the girls loved me from day one. In the maternity ward, I was voted the cutest baby. They went after me from day one, Mike.
You know, John, it's listeners like you who make me get up in the morning. I love callers who call up and relate to me guy to guy, and everyone listens. It's a fun show. John, thanks for calling from WABC, and thanks for making this show the big hit it is in Manhattan. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
It is the Savage Nation. It's almost the end of the hour. I don't know how. We've been talking about Valentine's Day horror stories. You can't believe the stories we are hearing. And we also had Secretary Ben Carson on from HUD. I mean, I wish this government a lot of luck. I don't know. If you're not going to make people work, you're going to give money to junkies. You're going to give money to alcoholics. You're going to give money to every kind of deviant on the planet. And then you're going to give them a $250 a night hotel room. What's the incentive to work? The problem is we have a society that gives everybody something for nothing. And we, the workers, hate it, in plain English. We don't want it anymore. I'm a tough love kind of guy. I think the grapes are wrath. I'm sorry you're down on your luck. That's not my problem. I didn't cause it. You want to take care of these people? As I said, you build housing 100 miles outside of a city on cheap land. I didn't say toxic wasteland. I said cheap land. You build basic barracks for the homeless. And if they cannot take care of themselves in these barracks, no drugs, no alcohol, they can't take care of themselves, you put them in a mental hospital or put them in a prison. Because this cannot go on. The society cannot take care of millions of people who refuse to work. Many of them choose to be homeless. Don't tell me everyone has a sob story. Some do, some don't. And don't tell me, but for the grace of God go I. Okay, I'm not winding up in the gutter. You have self-respect, you're not winding up in the gutter. Oh, you have a right to live in a city. You hear that argument from the left? They have a right to live in their home. They have a right to live in the city. No, they don't have a right to live in a city. That's how Nassau County was developed. That's how Sonoma, the county Suffolk was developed. What do you think the Long Island Railroad was developed for? It's for people who wanted to live in the city and couldn't. They had to commute to Suffolk County at the time to cheap housing, to raise a family. The same with Nassau, the same with Queens. It's always been the same story, but no one bellyache, I'm supposed to have an apartment on Park Avenue because I want it. Where'd this come from? I never saw anything like this insanity, except here. And now I'm going to tell you how something to do for your energy, and that's Super Beats. Wouldn't it be great to have all the energy you want all day long? What about fatigue? It gets in the way. It seems to get worse every year. Why? Because when you're 20, your body has a natural ability to maintain healthy circulation. By the time you are 40, that ability decreases by half, and it leaves you what? Blah, tired. What can you do to fight that fatigue? Get that youthful feeling back? Especially down south, drink Super Beats. Super Beats promotes the body's own natural ability to produce healthier circulation, code words, for increased energy and stamina all day long. Only Super Beats is made from beets grown to exacting standards, then concentrated into beautiful superfood crystals. You want to increase your own natural energy? Call 800-481-0504 or go to SavageLovesBeats.com. 800-481-0504. With your first order, you're going to get another 30-day supply of Super Beats free, plus strips to see how Super Beats actually works, the test strips, and free shipping. Just call 800-481-0504 or go to SavageLovesBeats.com today. I'll be back to talk about all the news, views, and reviews, and I'm trying to avoid the bad news because there's too much of it.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket, but it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place, and then they act so surprised when I find them, but I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
February 13th, 2018.
And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
Too long. Well, where's the lyrics already? No lyrics? Who is this? Like a funeral march in New Orleans. Oh, Mardi Gras. I'm supposed to get excited about that. Drugs, sex, and rock and roll. How exciting. Who goes to Mardi Gras in this day and age? What's that about? I never knew anyone who went there. What would you go there for? Why would you have to go to New Orleans for Mardi Gras when you can do it in San Francisco without traveling? They do it every night here in this city. Very exciting. Very exciting. Wear your lust on your sleeve, and we're supposed to celebrate. Big deal, Mardi Gras. What are they celebrating? Something about meat, not eating meat. I don't even understand how it started. Meat, not eating meat. Macron threatens to bomb Syria. That's really great. This is not good. France will strike if proven chemical bombs used in Syria. There are no chemical bombs. This is not good. This is not good. Israel wants war with Syria. Now France wants war with Syria. I don't know which side the United States is under Trump. I can't figure it out, to be honest with you. And now Damascus is warning Israel of more surprises because an Israeli F-16 was, frankly, it was a big black eye for the Israelis, who are seen as almost above, reproach with regard to military. They got shot down. Why? Because the Russians have about the most advanced anti-aircraft fire in the world that I've ever read about. I think it's the SAM-3. You know that they could fire a missile against a plane to 60,000 feet, and that missile is the size of a telephone pole? It's unbelievable to me how advanced the SAM is, and maybe a SAM-4 by now. But they got shot down, so now Syria, Israel, France, U.S., it's a terribly dangerous situation. A United States military jet actually blew up a Russian battle tank in Syria as well. It looks like we're moving to a terrible showdown in Syria. It's awful. An Iraqi T-72 main battle tank destroyed in a coalition attack during Operation, whatever it's called now, Desert Storm. Can anyone tell me why we are fighting in Syria since ISIS has been driven out? Why are we there? Can anyone listening to this show tell me why we should be fighting Assad? Can anyone listening to the show tell me what we have at stake in Syria and why we should be taking the side of Israel in this situation? Because I'm on the side of Israel. Please don't paint me into a corner. Not everything Israel does is right. Not everything Israel does is wrong. But in this case, Israel should stay out of Syria. I don't know why they're so paranoid about Assad. It was only Assad who protected both the Christians and the Jews against the fanatical Islamic State. What the hell is going on over here? Has Israel lost its mind? An anti-aircraft fire down an Israeli warplane returning from a bombing raid on Iran-backed positions in Syria on Feb 10. That's only 3 days ago. This is the most serious confrontation between Israel and Iranian-backed forces based across the border. Okay, so you could say it's not that they're worried about Syria right now. They don't want Iran getting a foothold in Syria, and then using Syria as a launching pad against Israel, because as you well know, Iran is the danger here, not Syria. Okay, that I understand. So it's Iran again. It's Iran again. And what are we going to do about it now? Scream about Iran and scream about Obama giving Iran money and scream about this and scream about that. What is the good about screaming on talk radio? What's it going to get us? Nothing. It's a mark of impotence. The louder you scream, the more impotent you sound. It's that simple. That's why I'd rather talk about what I ordered for lunch from the Chinese takeout than talk about Iran and Syria. I have more control over what I'm having for lunch than I have over what this country is going to do about Syria. But I want to ask you a very pointedly important question, and I'm going to give you total, what's the word they use now, transparency. I have nothing to hide with regard to what I'm about to tell you. I have been asked by certain individuals in the Trump administration to provide them some guidance on environmental issues. I've told you that's the area I've chosen to focus on because I have a history of working in this field going back to the late 60s, early 70s. I've written on it. I think I can help them on it. So let's make it something about that for a minute. If you're interested, and maybe you're not, maybe you true conservatives only care about the Constitution. I don't know what you care about. Do you have any environmental concerns that you would like me to carry for you to this discussion on the environment? Remember what I said to you last week. Conservation is a topic that should be owned by conservatives, not liberals. Liberals generally do not go into the environment. They only talk about it. Liberals do not really hunt, generally. They don't fish, generally. It's the conservatives who hunt and fish. So if you were asking me as your emissary to the Trump administration to tell them what issues you care about, what are they? I had the head of the EPA on the other day, and we talked about cleaning up lead in the water supply. That's a huge issue. You don't hear much about it. But that's a quantifiable problem. Global warming is not quantifiable in any way, shape, or form. And I've told you the issue of so-called warming is very controversial at best, if not generated by fraud artists at worst. But there's very little we can do to quantify how we're going to affect the outcome of that issue. Very little. I know that Nancy Pelosi would like you to believe that we can control it, but we cannot really control it. We can control lead in water. And I told you what my slogan is going to be, get the lead out. I thought that was very clever. I heard that people at the top rung of the Trump administration love it because it's a message that anyone can understand. So we're going to work on water pollution. And we can quantify whether or not we fix some of the issues with regard to water pollution, like lead in water. We can reduce the amount of lead in water in Flint, Michigan, for example. What else would you like me to talk about in that area? If you're interested in it all, it's fine. Okay? 855-407-282. Because to me, the earth is ours. Ever since I've been a little boy, I remember, my father influenced me an awful lot. No wonder I fought with him so much. But he told me about a book called The Good Earth that was written by a woman named Pearl Buck. I'm talking about the 1950s. And my father was, in his own way, in love with animals. He never said that. But he was very protective of wild animals. He didn't like the idea of hunting wild animals just for sport. He told me there's a difference between hunting for sport and hunting for survival. And he understood that men and women had to eat, and he understood they had to hunt for survival, but he really detested men who killed animals just for pleasure. And he said to me, there are no animals in the animal kingdom who hunt for fun. They don't hunt just for the pleasure of killing other animals. And that had a deep effect on me as a kid. You gotta understand. I understood that children understand certain things that are easy to understand. That's easy to understand. So there's no animals that hunt just for pleasure. There's no animals that kill for pleasure. It turns out that's not 100% true, by the way. There are cases on record of chimpanzees killing for sport. Incidentally, those benign. Be careful of the chimps, man. They're pretty wild. But by and large, what issues do you want me to talk about in the environmental world when I do go to Washington and hold a meeting on this subject? I don't think I'm going to hide it. I don't think I have to hide my environmental expertise, nor do I have to hide the fact that I may be acting as an ex officio advisor in some way on these subjects. I think it's a great thing to do. I know an awful lot about it, and I know no one else as qualified as I am to discuss a multitude of issues in the area of the environment And so, therefore, I'm doing this. And by the way, there's another thing I want to ask you. Oh, this is important. Yeah, help me on this. If you were me and someone said to you at the highest level of government, Savage, can you put together a small consulting team on environmental issues, including global warming if you want, but going beyond just global warming? Because it's not the only environmental issue there is. Who would you advise that I bring into this meeting? I've thought about it long and hard. There's not a lot of people I can think of, by the way, because I don't want it to be too partisan. I don't really want someone who's going to bang us around the head about things. I would like someone who can give us real science, support real science, so we could actually do something to fix the air, fix the water, and fix the places. You know what I'm saying? So who would that be? And I'd like you to call me on this, and I'm getting lots of calls on it, because environmentalism is not alien to conservative radio listeners. KSFO, Dave, go ahead, please, line 6.
Dr. Savage, I'd definitely like you to speak about the twin tunnel projects in the California Delta. That's just going to be an environmental disaster for that.
No, say it again. Your voice broke up. What issue in the Delta of California?
Jerry Brown's twin tunnels that want to send the water south.
You know, very few people know that Jerry Brown is going to destroy the farmland of the of California, which provides most of the a good portion, let us say, of the fruits and vegetables this country enjoys. Why would Jerry Brown want to steal the water out of the Delta?
I'm confused as well, because Southern California traditionally doesn't vote for his side of the aisle.
So what is he doing? What is Jerry Brown deviously proposing right now?
I can't figure it out for the life of me, because the Delta is so unique. You would think that would be a left-wing thing. Peace, love the environment, save the fish, but it's like the opposite. I'm confused as well.
Well, that's because he's a deceitful liar, like all left-wing politicians who make believe they're one thing and they're another. They talk about racism while provoking racism. They talk about environmentalism while destroying the earth. So what else is new about lying deviants? But what is he actually doing with tunnels? Is he started the project of digging tunnels to steal the water out of the farmland and bring it down to L.A.?
No, I mean, this has been going on for years. They want to take the water before it reaches the Delta so that it'll stop the flushing of the salinity from the ocean, and they want to send the cleaner water above stream to L.A. They already send it downstream to L.A., but if they get it upstream, they'll get the cleaner water out of the Sacramento and more up towards Shasta. They want cleaner water before.
And what will the outcome be of taking the water and diverting it? What will it do that's harmful?
Right now, right around Antioch is where the fresh water changes to salt. It'll suck that in, and there's all sorts of passages in there that will become salty, and it'll kill the fish, it'll kill the birds, it'll completely alter the landscape forever. You can't get the salt.
Well, what does Nancy Pelosi have to say about it? Does she know anything about this?
If she did, you couldn't understand her.
Well, how about Robert De Niro? Maybe he can tell us about salinity of water in the Delta. He's an expert on the environment. I think he studied that in his years at the High School of Performing Art. After all thespians in Hollywood seem to know an awful lot about the environment. Well, we'll look into that. Stealing Delta water by California. Let's go to the national issues. What environmental issues matter to you? We're also talking about the Syrian situation. Who is advising the West on the situation in Syria, and what should be done about preventing Donald Trump from being led by neocons into a war that we cannot win? This is the Savage Nation. Back in a minute.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. February 13th, 2018.
We're talking about how to prevent the Trump administration from being sucked into a war in Syria by the neocon advisors that are around him. He has advisors, by the way, and I was told this directly. He said he has advisors who are neocons, and then he has advisors who are globalists, and he has advisors who are of our kind. And he listens to them all, obviously. We know that. And it's a huge struggle within the administration. I don't think anyone doesn't know that who studies politics. So I have been tasked with bringing environmental issues to the forefront that are quantifiable and can be, let us say, corrected during the term of his administration, whether it's another 3 or another 8 years, where we can quantify benefits that we are, doing on the environmental level. But I'm as concerned about that as I am about the issue in Syria right now. I have a fear we're going to be sucked into a war against Assad, which will be a war against Russia, which we do not want. We do not want it. It's really bothering me. And the neocons are pushing him into a war with Russia. All the Democrats want a war with Russia. All the neocons want a war with Russia. You understand that? But look, I can't control which direction it's going to go. Maybe we can help on the environment. What would you do? What would you talk about? Kathleen on WABC line 1. What issue in the environmental area concerns you? Not there. She there? Not there. Line 1. That's a bummer. Are you there, Kathleen? Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hurry up, quick.
Oh, yes. One of the things I think you should speak with Donald Trump about is that he's promised these coal miners that he reopen the coal mines. You know, I know these men are desperate to work and looking for jobs and to support their families, but it's a very dangerous industry with coal mine collapses. And also, if these men have worked for years in these coal mines, they come down with such horrendous lung diseases where they die young of black lung disease, emphysema, and fulminal ultramicroscopic silicovolcaniconiosis, and they leave their wives widowed young and their children without fathers young. They're on oxygen tanks and stuff the last years of their life. What I think he should do is basically these men need work. Put up maybe solar panel plants in those areas where the former coal miners need work. Have them retrained in the clean industry where it's not going to kill them 7-10 years before they would naturally pass away. Well,
there's nothing wrong with your advice, but I don't think it's that practical. Moreover, the solar panel industry is very interesting. It's been manipulated so that solar panels made in China are being dumped here in America the same way they destroyed our television industry by dumping, the same way they almost destroyed our auto industry by dumping cars below cost of production. If you were to say to me, let's put solar in, if it really works, and some of them do work, I would say it all has to be made in the USA. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thanks, Kathleen. It's a very good issue of coal versus solar. And believe me, I'm a futurist in many ways, and I'm not opposed to moving on with energy. Don't think I am. As much as I love my fuel-burning, fire-breathing dragon cars, hey, you give me a great hydrogen car, I'll take it. But we're not there yet. We have to get there by steps. But the question that the lady raised, which is a good one, which is, can we retrain coal miners in other energy-related industries, especially those with products made in America? These and other topics when I return right here on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Maybelline, why can't you start doing the things you used to do?
It is 34 minutes after the hour. This is the Savage Nation. The independent conservative, even you liberals can talk to. That's a good one. Hey, do you like my new opening? Because I changed it from winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award. I changed it to author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder. Trump's War on God, Faith, and Reason. I don't know which one people like. So we're talking, you wouldn't think it, but it just happened. Look, I threw out a lot of stuff. All standard fare for conservative shows, right? With standard website stuff and, red meat for the conservative. But you know what you're calling about? Something that no one else in the conservative media could do or would do, which is what environmental issues hit home. Which environmental issue should I champion for you with the leadership of this nation? And one of them was stealing Delta water. Another one was coal miners' lives and what we can do about that. There's tons of callers on this. It is counter-programming in the sense that you wouldn't think that listeners to my show would care about, but they do. It's probably the last unmined area of conservative media. They know nothing about the environment. I don't understand that. There are a lot of intelligent people in the conservative movement, writers, talkers, and they don't talk about these issues. All they do is bash. If you hear anything from the conservatives about the environment. All it is to bash global warming and say, oh, it's all crap, there's nothing to it. Do they even know the science? No. But they've taken the doctrinaire position that global warming is a fraud. And it's not enough. People need more than that. So I've given you more than that. In Government Zero, I spent 2 pages on, and I'll repeat it again till you hear it, Vostok ice core samples, because it's irrefutable data. So that's one example. I mean, I've gone beyond it in other writings, but I'm saying, giving you quantifiable statements that you can actually analyze for yourself and draw your own conclusions. I'm not so sure that everyone who identifies, let's say, as a liberal or progressive is that close-minded. Many of them are, yes, just as there are doctrinaire conservatives who are locked into the doxies. So is the shoe on the left. But I think if we're going to have a dialogue that has any meaning in the country, it has to have factual statements that can be analyzed. So that's why we're talking about that. So which issues do you care enough about that you'd say, Savage, carry this one for us? Mary on WABC, what's your issue? Mary, line 1. I don't know what's wrong. I'm hitting the telos. Mary, line 1. Mary, what issue bothers you the most?
The Fukushima landfall radiation on U.S. soil and waters. I think it's a very important issue, and if you possibly talk to us about it, because I hear that you have a high consumption of seafood over there, so I want to know how you feel about it. And
well, I just ate shrimp during the break, salt and pepper shrimp. My ankles blew up, but it wasn't from the radiation. It was definitely from the salt and pepper.
Well, are you aware of this, or?
I certainly am aware of the.
Okay.
Yes, I am aware, very, very highly aware of the effluents that has migrated from the Fukushima nuclear plant that blew out in Japan a few years ago, and the contamination of the Pacific Coast waters. And I think that's what you're discussing, correct?
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Are you a doctor or a scientist by chance?
No, my daughter who lives in San Francisco just texted me, and I'm just worried about it.
Well, it's an interesting question, and I don't know the radiation dosage, the radiation dosages that are being reported, nor do I think that it's as big an issue as some people think. I believe it is an issue, but I don't know how big an issue it is. And to be honest with you, Mary, I'll have to investigate that. I have no data in front of me to give you a credible answer. I can make it up, but I'm not going to do it. I'd have to really research what the levels are. What else do you want me to talk about? Or what other issues that I've talked about do you want to talk about? You know, here's one that's important. Tim on KSFO. That's online, of course. Tim, welcome. What's your subject?
Hi, Michael. I was speaking to a friend of mine a couple nights ago, and he told me about something that absolutely made me sick. I grew up in a small Northern California town of Larkspur, and there was a large rose nursery in that town that had been there for decades, and eventually the nurseries went out of business, and they were going to sell the property, which they eventually did, and then they wanted to subdivide it and put in some luxury homes. Well, it turns out the property sat on an ancient Miwok site that was both a village, sounds like a ceremonial site, a burial site. Archaeologists went there and couldn't believe it. It was the biggest Native American find in over 100 years.
I know exactly what site you're talking about because it has some pretty ugly townhomes on it right now.
Well, they rushed the Native Americans to do the excavation. They didn't really get a good chance to do a good job. They moved the soil to an undisclosed location, and they never really did finish up on the site, and this thing was considered one of the biggest finds in the last 100 years for Native Americans.
But how did such a PC town in Marin County get away with that?
Marin County is ground zero for the liberal people that make it sound like they stand up for the...
I know that. They make it a religion, so how did they let them decimate a Native American archaeological site like that and put in some townhouses? How'd they do... By the way, are you a Native American? If so, which tribal affiliation are you?
Michael, I just am a native Northern Californian.
No, I'm saying you're just you're regular Northern Californian, but you are not a Native American yourself, so to speak.
I'm a Caucasian.
Well, that makes you a native if you were born here.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a Native American. I'm a Native American. I was born in Manhattan. What does that make me remember? The Manhattano tribe, the Walt Whitman designation of a tribe. The Manhattanos, he used to call them. And I consider myself very much a Native American in that regard, certainly not in the racial lineage that we are discussing, nor do I make light of the fact that there are people who preceded the Caucasians on this landmass by at least 20,000 years. That's a very important fact. But if you get into this whole subject of decimating archaeological sites, it's a very important one because the day will come when our immediate ancestors, who may be buried, for example, in cemeteries across America, do we want their cemeteries bulldozed so that housing can be built 50 years from now? I don't think so. And I think that's what you're talking about. It's a pretty horrible thing to think about, which is bulldozing graveyards for housing. But guess what? It has happened, and it's going to be an increasingly important issue in your lifetime, especially if you're in the younger category. Because when you think about it, there are more and more people and less land, especially near major cities. You go out to Long Island's graveyards where my ancestors are buried. Okay, I don't even like to think about it, but that's where they are. Old potato fields. They were fundamentally wasteland when those cemeteries were built way out in Suffolk County, even outside Long Island City when you think about it. Jewish cemeteries, Catholic cemeteries, Protestant cemeteries, they are there. And what is going to happen as pressures increase upon the land to build housing? What are they going to do? Dig up the dead and rebury them? Well, they've done it in Japan. Do you know that in Japan there are crypts with tens of thousands? I don't even want to think about it. I have to, I guess. I walked into this one. They're stacked upon each other like in high-rise burial grounds now because Japan has run out of land to build housing on. So these are questions that everyone's going to face at some point. And I guess a lot of us these days don't bury, we cremate, and I don't even want to get into that right now. It's a very touchy subject. I've got boxes of past dogs in little, ceremonial boxes that I talk to my animals once in a while, like there's Snowy with her tags in the box, on top of the box. And I remember her when she was young and the children were young, and she'd run like Lassie, the little Sheltie. I had loved her. And when she went to the happy hunting grounds, I got Teddy, the little poodle of mine who's 14 years old and almost died recently, and it was a bad time for me, but he's back. I mean, I give him roast beef in the morning. This dog runs around like he's a puppy. He's a puppy again, hopping like Brer Rabbit. It's amazing to see what modern medicine and modern surgery can do for our animals. But at the end of the day, we see ourselves in them, and we see the way of all flesh, and we think about these things. I don't really want to talk about it because I can't do anything about that. Unfortunately, I'm unable to change the course of human destiny with regard to longevity. I've done the best I can in writing books on the subject, and I think I've advanced human knowledge by popularizing what was unpopular and going back to the early 70s. And I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to advance knowledge in the area of vitamins, nutrition, herbal medicine, homeopathic medicine, and help probably millions of people awaken to the fact that there's another way other than eating meat and potatoes as a way to live. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that we can learn from each other, and that's one of the areas that I've been obsessed with since I'm a little kid. And thus far, okay, Teddy, don't show how alive you are. So let's take some callers on other subjects here. Here's KAOK in Louisiana, KAOK Radio. You're okay, Paul. Welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hey, thank you for having me. One of my concerns is about the expansion of the U.S. fisheries responsibilities, and that is fish, because people don't realize a lot of fish, like in New York, all these lakes, the freshwater lakes, have a disease called mycobacterium in them. And I don't know if you're familiar. You're probably familiar with that disorder. But,
well, what you're saying is that we're bringing in fish that are foreign to the United States that are filled with bacteria that are infecting our local fish?
That is correct. I know for a fact. Sir?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I know for a fact this is the industry that I actually am in, and I brought fish in from Trinidad, basically, and they're not checking them.
So when you bring in fish into a fishery from Trinidad, they're bringing in microorganisms that are infecting our local fish?
Correct. Like, for instance, angelfish. Angelfish are brought in, and when pet store owners and fisheries find out that they're there, they dump them, and they dump them in the freshwater rivers. You know, you're supposed to dispose of kill them, but they don't do that. And now we have bass and other fish that are game fish that actually have this disease called mycobacterium. And
I see. Well, all right. There's another problem. I mean, it's all over the place. It's like immigrants and epidemics on an animal level.
Exactly.
I'm more concerned about what Obama did to us with the Zika virus, and God knows what else when he brought in hundreds of thousands of people infected with Zika from Honduras, and no one could stop the maniac. Remember those years, what he did to us with the trainloads of people? Well, they're still here. He's calling many of them DACA, DACA, DACA. I've been talking about immigrants and epidemics for at least 30 years. And I'm more concerned with what he did to this country than I am about angelfish. But nevertheless, the angelfish is a big problem. But, you know, I started to talk about another topic that I don't want to leave behind us. And I opened the show with, why do the Obamas purposely inflame racism? It is posted on michaelsavage.com for you to peruse and analyze on your own. And do it objectively on your own and see if you disagree or agree with me. He doesn't have to do this kind of thing, and neither does she, and yet they do it as stock and trade, just as surely as Stalin provoked hatred against the kulaks in order to steal their land.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Well, let's talk about rest for a minute. Come on, you know that I have to talk about this because I do talk about it, and sleep is the most important thing for me next to food. Well, next to talk radio. And sleeping well has made a big difference in my life since I did get a Casper mattress, which I talk about regularly, and you have to try it for yourself. First of all, it's not an ordinary mattress. The team of engineers at Casper worked around the clock collecting data and engineering what is certainly the most comfortable of all mattresses, a unique combination of foams which provide the right pressure relief and alignment so you feel perfectly balanced and comfortable. And thanks to the breathable material, that's the big one, you're guaranteed to sleep cool, and the mattresses are built to last for years. So I want you to try Casper yourself for 100 nights in your own home. Risk-free. It comes to you in a compact box. And by doing this, Casper's eliminated the middleman and all the added costs that come with it. And if you don't love it, you don't have to try to squeeze it back into that little box. They come pick it up and refund you every dime. No questions asked. This President's Day is a great day because not only is Casper saving you from aggressive salespeople and long lines during the holiday weekend, you're also going to save $125, you heard me, on purchases over $1,250. And you'll save over $200 on purchases over $2,000. It's a great deal. Don't miss out. Take advantage of this special limited offer by going to Casper.com. That's Casper.com. Terms and conditions apply. Don't you love the name Casper? You think of Casper the Friendly Ghost and sleeping every time I think of Casper. So, what lit up the board today on the Savage Nation is not CNN. It's not Michelle Obama's portrait. It's not North Korea. It's not the Olympics. What lit up this show is my asking you which environmental issues matter to you and which environmental issues do you want me to champion for you with this government. This government's taking this subject very seriously. This is not a joke to them. And they're so serious about it that they want me to pick subjects that can be quantifiably changed, meaning it's easy to say, yeah, I'm for a clean environment. We all want a clean environment. You know anyone who doesn't? I never met anyone who didn't. We all want cleaner air, cleaner water, cleaner land. We all want that, okay? But the question is, how do you quantify what you are doing so you can show results? This is what we are talking about. So, with regard to water pollution, you can quantify whether you're getting lead out of water by starting with a baseline. How much lead is in the water of any city? Pick it. Now, you have 4 years later, we've done this, we've done that, we've cleaned up the pipes, we've cleaned up the groundwater, whatever we've done, and you show that the level of lead has gone down. That's quantifiable. It's irrefutable, even to Jeff Zucker of CNN. Even a moron like, I don't have to give a name, okay? Even the idiots in the left-wing news media would have to acknowledge that Trump cleaned up the water if we can show we quantifiably made a difference, right? Even Anderson Cooper, Andy. Even Andy, who probably the last thing he ever quantified was his waist size by looking at the tape measure to see if it was still a 26 or a 27. Even he could understand if we reduced a level of lead in the water. Even he would have to acknowledge it, right? You would think so. So, that's what I'm talking about. That's the type of subjects that I want to bring forward. We got the Delta water, the Fukushima radiation, and Native American land being destroyed. U.S. fisheries permitting fish to be brought in which infect local fish. These are all like insignificant to most of you who are so brainwashed with Mueller and Schmueller and Mueller and Mueller and Bueller and Mueller and Bueller. Okay, we know it's a witch hunt. We know Rosenstein is a bum. We know Trump is innocent. Now what? You only talk about it every day like I invented the subject? No, that's not what I do. I need to bring you stuff that's new.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
What a great day to be alive on the Savage Nation. Maybe I'll keep doing this till I'm like 96. Maybe I'll break all world records. Everyone else will die, and I'll still be on the radio. No, I don't mean that. Come on. I really don't. I'm just kidding. But it's amazing to be able to talk about so many important subjects and some trivial subjects and joke around and have a family. This is a gigantic family. The Savage Nation is a bigger family than you may imagine. Reaches people who you may not even believe listen to the show. People who identify as somewhat social liberal, but they listen to the show. You remember, like last Friday, I did a show, and it came out of nowhere. I think I was provoked by the Versace show on the murders and the gay violence, the undertones. I did a show on, are you a gay man? I started with that. What happened when you came out and told your father you were gay? Remember that show? I couldn't believe the response to that. I never expected it. I just, thought about it. But what's amazing is the diversity or the versatility, and both diversity and versatility of my audience. Very, very hard to stereotype. You know, you get the thin-minded people, like the HBO fake stars, the junkies who have canned laughter. They'll tell you that every conservative is stupid. That would include you. Now, how could you say that about every conservative is stupid or not smart enough? How could you make a statement like that unless you're on HBO, surrounded by morons yourself? It'll be like me saying all liberals are stupid. I did write a book, Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, because that happens to be a fact. All right, so here we are. But the topic that caught fire today was not burial grounds, not whether you want to be buried or cremated. I can't. The dog just got sick, had cancer, cured him. Thank God they cut it out. He's younger than a pup again. Lovely, loves her. You eat him, feed him. He runs around the house, jumps like a rabbit again. 14 years old. He doesn't know he was sick. That's why we love our dogs, because they have a sense of immortality about them, right? And that's why when they get sick, we get so broken up, because we don't know what to do for them, right? But we see ourselves in the animals. That's an observation we all have. And it makes you realize that you are also frail at the end of the day, flesh, bone, blood. But it makes you respect those who are almost superhuman even more, whether they be a military person who can jump out of an airplane at 30,000 feet and open the parachute at 4,000 feet, the halo jumpers, the high-altitude, low-opening jumpers. Think about that. Now, I don't know whether any transvestites, transsexuals can do that. I hope so. But I would suspect that anyone who's a halo jumper would put the ability to jump out of a plane at 10,000 feet and open it at 400 feet above whether their sexuality is an issue. You see what I mean? But the doctrinaire fools who are running portions of the military would put the transsexualism above the performance of the military man. Or you look at superhuman people in a ring, in an octagon, or superhuman people in a boxing match. We all know this. You put an average guy, even a strong guy, in a ring with a cage fight, he's going to get killed. Less than 30 seconds, he's a dead man. And we say, my God, what the heck are they made of that they can take that kind of punishment? We all knew kids when we were younger who were tougher kids and weaker kids, and we knew that, and kids had different skills and different, abilities. But there was always the kid who was stronger than everybody else, born that way, right? The kid who you could drop like a rock on his head and he wouldn't feel. He would brush it off and say, what was that, right? We all knew somebody like that. The kid who could jump off a 20-foot wall and not break his ankle, while you, timidly walked up to the end of the wall and, walked down or whatever. So there are varieties in the human species. We all know that. There are varieties of human beings. That makes us great. We can't say, we're all equal. That's the outcome-based stupidity of the radical left. All equal. And if we're not equal, we'll make you all equal by diminishing those who are better than others. We'll make sure that the smartest don't get the highest degrees. We'll put the dumbest in the schools and make sure the dumbest get the highest degrees, and that the smartest get the lowest degrees. We won't even give them a job. Then we'll make the country in the eyes of Barack Hussein Obama, who hires a 10th-grade dumb artist who makes him look like a guy relieving himself in the woods and holds it up as a great picture to put in the National Portrait Gallery. He just debased the entire portraiture of the United States presidency. And what, you're not supposed to say the king has no clothes? I say what I see. That's why I'm on the radio. That is why you listen, because it's psychological nudity. What you're hearing is psychological nudity. I've done this for 24 years this March. That's only a month from now. March 24th, 1994. I accidentally backed into talk radio. I backed into it by accident. And it took off. They gave me this and that, and one thing led to another, and here it is so many years later. And it makes you wonder. It really makes you wonder, is that destiny? Was I destined for this? Is that every impediment in my life led to this? I think so. I like to believe that there's a God in heaven who controls our destiny, but I don't really believe that. I like to believe it, but I don't. Because I believe in free will. I believe that we have free will. I don't know, maybe God pushes us in a certain direction. Maybe there are angels who protect us, and I do believe in angels. I know you think I'm crazy. I've had experiences in my life which can only be explained by supernatural forces that stepped in to save me. I mean, I don't want to go into it because it sounds like it's hokum, but it isn't. I remember all the way back to childhood when I was hit by a car and got bounced up there, and I can remember the day I was outside my cousin's house near Jamaica High School. I was like a 10-year-old kid playing in the street and a car hit me. I bounced off the fender. To this day, sometimes I have a joke that maybe I died and it's all a dream. And I'm still passing through all of, I can't believe that. You mean the swollen ankles from shrimp is an imaginary thing? I don't think so. So you don't know. Why does one die? Why does one live? Life is so complicated. It's so complicated. It's very hard for all of us. And all of these questions have plagued me since I'm a little boy. I was always a very, thoughtful kid. Why? What? What does it mean, Danny? What does it mean, Mommy? Stop asking questions already. You're driving me crazy. Michael, you think too much. What do you mean, I think too much? I think, therefore I am. No, you think too much. I said, no, you can't think too much. You can only think too little, Mom. And they didn't really know what I was talking about. Most people are afraid of thinking. And it's easy to fall back upon groupthink or fall back upon pat answers. But I think thinking is all we've got. That's all we have as human beings. The rest is sort of animalistic. And I'm not opposed to my monkey body. In other words, when I say that, I mean that in a kind way. We are still trapped within the body of the primate, but we have this divine mentality and spirituality that we are capable of. And the combination can be pretty hard to live with. Why would God put the capacity to be a divine being inside a primate's body? Think about that one. It's not a bargain. I mean, when you think about it, with all the ails stuff that the primate's body is subject to, right? The heart, the liver, the lung, the brain, a toenail, a gout. I'm saying gout because someone I know has gout right now. I won't say who. So, I don't know, I'm just pondering, thinking, that's all. And so brings us up to all issues that you want to talk about. And most surprisingly, what you most wanted to talk about today on the Savage Nation, the most misunderstood show in the country, because I'm not understood very well by either side. They don't know what to make of me. A truly independent mind is easy to put down, easy to sneer at, easy to try to diminish, but it only diminishes the person who's putting me down. I've seen that from the beginning. So tread lightly and tread softly, because it will backfire on all of you who try it, whether online or on air or in the written form. I can guarantee you people are listening, and slander is slander, and defamation is defamation. Don't go too far. There's a little coded message for those who think they can get away with it continuously. You're not getting away with it. Okay? God sees the truth but waits. I see the truth and I don't wait. I turn it over to Danny Horowitz, the greatest attorney in America. Okay, so the topic most people are talking about on the show today are the environmental issues that matter to you, whether you're conservative or liberal. I don't even know. I didn't say to you, give me the environmental issues that matter to you only if you're a conservative. I don't know who you are. I know that my audience, going back to the beginning here in San Francisco, has always been a crossover audience. There is no way I could have, let us say, had such astounding reaction to me in this Bay Area, which is super liberal, if I was only seen as some doctrinaire, limited mentality, right-wing buffoon. It wouldn't have happened. So I have an awful lot of people who identify as liberals who listen to me religiously and have for many years, not so much because I've changed them. Maybe I have in some ways. Maybe I've enlightened them. Maybe I haven't. It's because I'm the kind of guy on the other side of the thought aisle that they generally don't get to talk to, and they probably want to hear my viewpoints, which I tend to back up with facts, and then they think, all right, let me challenge the guy in my own head, or let me call the show. Most of you will do it in your own head. But it does make you think, doesn't it? Don't it provoke you? So I asked you, what are the most important environmental issues to you? I didn't qualify it and say conservatives only or liberals only, nor did I say environmental issues are unimportant. I didn't do any of that. And so we have a little list going here, and I can guarantee you this list will be taken very, very seriously at a certain time. And if I can, I will report upon the meeting and the outcome of the meeting, because I'm Mr. Smith. And eventually Mr. Smith will go to Washington. In this limited area I have chosen for myself. I could have chosen nutrition, couldn't I? I could have chosen health issues. I didn't. I very specifically chose to specialize in environmental issues because it's the one area that we can all agree upon, and it's an area we can quantify. Do you understand that? Moreover, I have probably the best background in environmental issues of anyone in the media right now. I don't know of anyone in the major media, and I'm not challenging you, who knows more about these issues in a more generic sense than I do. I've been writing about it. I've been living it. I've been eating it. I've been sleeping it ever since the late 60s, early 70s. So I've asked you, it's a long way of saying, which environmental issues concern you the most? And the minute I come back from this break, I will take your calls, I promise you. And we're going to have to do it like 30 seconds or less. So, Jim, get everyone ready to just fire away. Okay, issue is bang, 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 bang. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
We overusing this piece. I like it a lot. So mark your calendars. I have another treat for you. We're getting all sorts of top government officials on the show. We have one after the other, which is very enjoyable because I do a different kind of interview. It's not canned, and I don't have questions that are given to me. Tomorrow, I am happy to announce that we have Secretary Carson on this show to talk about homelessness, which is a huge topic. And he will be on tomorrow, right on the Savage Nation. I don't know which hour yet, but Carson's one of my favorite people. Ben Carson will be here to talk about homelessness with you, the Savage Nation. So as you see, you're being heard. All your years of waiting have paid off. You're being heard, and the people who are actually running the machinery of government are listening, and they're coming on this show because they know they can have an impact with you. It's beautiful. Now, before I take the calls on the environment, I'm running, I can't believe it, 8 topics at once here. There's a soundbite of all the many soundbites that the guys collected for me I have to play. Remember yesterday we were talking about the infrastructure projects and how privatization is so important and how it's been the American way since revolutionary times when roads were built by private individuals who charged tolls basically to recollect the money they invested? It's as American as apple pie. Now, here is Charles Schumer. If you never understood what these liberal Democrats are all about, here he is trashing privatization of any infrastructure projects because he's never met a government program he didn't like. Do you understand why? Because of the graft. Because Schumer is part of the current Tammany Hall government in New York City, the same as California, run by a bunch of criminals, in my opinion, who should be rounded up by U.S. Marshals and zip-tied and taken out of the state for what they are doing with regard to illegal aliens and not respecting federal immigration law. They are gangsters. They're violating the law. I don't care whether they wear suits and ties and they're nice guys. They're not nice guys. They're criminals. If there's federal immigration law, which we have been lectured to for over 4 years now by Obama, when states try to pass their own voter ID law, we say, oh, no, you can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? We want to make sure that only citizens vote. Oh, no, federal law controls immigration. Well, now we have a Republican government that has immigration laws being violated by cities and states around the country, and there is a solution to that. And the solution is arrest the attorney generals who are suing the federal government, and also arrest the mayors who are defying the federal government, and give them the justice that they deserve, because they are acting like criminals against the wishes and the will, not only of the voters, but against the police and the sheriffs in their states who are doing the job of facing these gangsters in the street. So here we go back to Schumer, who never met a public expenditure he didn't like. I think the best one to play is 13.
The president's proposal would do very little to make our ailing infrastructure better. Instead of proposing direct federal investments to help all parts of the country,
here we go.
The Trump infrastructure plan relies on private parties or state and localities to put up the lion's share of the money.
Charles.
In turn, those entities would either have to charge local taxpayers new tolls or raise taxes and other fees to pay for the new infrastructure.
You know, Schumer, I know you went to Harvard and you think you're smarter than everyone around you, but you see, if you studied history and you stopped reading Karl Marx and Engels and started reading American history, something that's probably alien to you, Schumer, you would discover pretty quickly that ever since the Revolutionary War and for 80 years thereafter, all roads in this country were built by the exact means that Trump is proposing through private investment. I know that it's alien to your thinking. It's alien to you, who is acting like an American alien. But in fact, it's very American, Charlie. I know you didn't study that at Harvard Law. Now let's go to the callers. KM, I don't have time, 30 seconds. See, it's like one of those days where everything's working. It's flowing. It's good to be alive. The show is good to be alive. You're good to be alive. I'll be back, and when I'm here, we'll be alive together. I'll take your calls on all these issues and more at 855-407-282, which you cannot get on, or go to michaelsavage.com and check out all the stories I have not yet covered.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
Goody.
So you met someone and now you know how it feels.
Goody. So many entertainers. They just can't stay away from the drugs. It's a wonder after all these years. I don't use drugs, 24 years. Never, nothing. How do I do it? Where do I get it from? Where does it come from? Now, let me tell you something. I'm going to go into this now. I meant to take your calls on the environment, but I'm in one of these loquacious moods on every topic under the sun. I was thinking about this. You know, the one thing I experience from the radio that's not easy to live with is the post-radio drop that is experienced if you put, a lot into it and you get that drop-off from a performance. That's hard to deal with. So I have developed my own techniques of dealing with it. It has nothing to do with drugs, medication, alcohol, nothing. No cigarettes, zero. I generally go to sleep. I find sleep to be one of the greatest salvations for any kind of a problem. It was an old hippie saying in the 70s. I used to have a bumper sticker. It says, when in doubt, get horizontal. It's worked for me. Whenever anything goes wrong, you go in a room, you close the curtains, blackout shades of God's gift to man, and you turn off all incoming. And you'd be surprised, 10, 15 minutes, you're ready to go again. and you don't need drugs. Anyway, that's a little off thing. So what environmental topics interest you is the main question. Renee, WDRC in Connecticut, line 2. Go ahead, 15 seconds or less. 30 seconds.
Dr. Savage, in 1971, President Nixon put through the Wild Free Roaming Horses and Burros Act, which protects our wild horses and burros against any abuse or slaughter. The BLM, the monsters of the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, is sending our horses to slaughter. The horses are abused terribly. They are run where the mothers will abort, the babies will run their hooves off.
What the U.S. is doing to get around the not killing them here is they're running the horses in trucks in the most abysmal conditions to Canada, and the horses are being slaughtered in peaceful, loving Canada in slaughterhouses. Am I correct?
You're right. Barbaric.
Okay, I got it. I'm not going to beat it up. Thank you. It'll be on the list. Wild horses and burros. I've actually discussed this with a top official in the government, and he has his views, I have my views, and we have to come to terms with this. This is not going away. Wally, what environmental issue is it that you'd like me, Michael Savage, to be your emissary on? Wally, KMAJ Radio in Kansas, line 3. Go ahead, please.
Hey, hydrogen. Hydrogen is the fuel of the future, in my opinion. Should be the fuel of the present. And I don't understand, well, I think I understand why it isn't being pursued more. Probably because of the oil companies, I'm guessing. What do you think about that? Hydrogen.
Well, you heard me, I think you may have heard me mention in the last hour, I would gladly drive a hydrogen car if there was the technology to support that. You probably heard me say that, correct?
Sure. Well,
I said even though I love my fire-breathing, fuel-burning cars, I would gladly drive a hydrogen car, but we're not there. How many years away do you think we are from a hydrogen-driven car?
Now, well, GM has hydrogen cars now, but they have to go to a filling station to get their hydrogen, which is no different than having to go to a gas station to get it. It has to be produced on board.
So, in other words, we know that if you break water down, you get hydrogen and oxygen. Is it derived from water?
Yes, it's part of the water molecules. Yeah.
Well, I just said that if you break water down, you get hydrogen and oxygen. But how do you make the oxygen while driving? What happens?
Well, you don't make oxygen. You separate the hydrogen from the oxygen molecules, and that's done generally electrically now. I think it can be done chemically as well. I'm not sure about that.
Okay, but how expensive is that technology?
Well, you have to have electricity generally to separate the molecules.
All right, so if you're going to break those molecules using electricity, the cost of the electricity has to be factored in, doesn't it?
Yeah, you kind of get into the perpetual motion dilemma there when you think of it that way.
Look, Wally, let me explain something. I'm a futurist at heart. I have been a futurist ever since I've been a kid. I've always thought about the future, lived in the future, think about the future, etc. The day will come that we will have transporters that may not even need engines. They may not even run on engines at all. They could run on pure energy. Don't you think that's possible?
Like anti-gravity, maybe? Something like that, you mean?
Yeah, let's get into that one, Wally. I'm not ready to bring this discussion forward because I think we're 50 years away from energy-driven vehicles. I'm more into like mentally transporting ourselves. Wouldn't that be funny if we really could transport ourselves through our minds? Is that day ever going to come? Like, okay, today, I'll give you an example today. It's a strange thought. I woke up, it was cold here. We had a real cold wave in California. It's horrible. It's a drought, but it's cold and sunny. So I sleep with like 6 covers, which I like. I put the dog's little coat on him at night. I call it his pajamas. It's a lighter coat, whatever. All right, so I get up in the morning. It's a cold morning. For some weird reason, it reminds me of autumn in New York, just before the winter. I mean, that's the kind of the weather that I'm in right now. And what is it that I want to do? I want to go to Manhattan, and I want to get a tuna fish sandwich on rye toast with a cup of tea in a coffee shop. And there's nowhere around here that I can get exactly what I'm looking for with that particular type of pickle and that particular taste of the tuna that is made in those luncheonettes in Manhattan, okay? Now, why did I get that? What is it that provokes these thoughts? You think I'm going to fly across the country to have a tuna fish sandwich? No. But I was thinking, is the day going to come that we can mentally transport ourselves? Is that going to ever happen? Those machines, you've seen them in science fiction movies, right? Where you walk into a machine and it goes zzz, and you're somewhere else or whatever. Would you ever want to live in that world where you're denaturized and recomposed somewhere? I don't know. I don't think I could ever imagine that happening. So we have to stick with the real world today. We all drive our gas-guzzling cars or our electric cars. We're used to that. But let's look at the transition from the gas guzzlers to the electric car. Even 15 years ago, would you have ever believed that you would be so accepting of electric cars, either for yourself or for others? Never. So that's a technological leap, and we're living in it. They're getting better and better each time. In the family, we have an electric car. I don't like it at all. I like to hear my engine start. I can't tell you, I like smelling the exhaust fumes when occasionally I have to. I hate it. I like the feeling and the sound because I grew up with it. It makes me comfortable. It's like comfort food. It's comfort transportation. And I don't like the electric car for a couple of reasons. It's actually very fast. I don't like the electric car because it's so silent you could run someone over in a garage without knowing it. You can run a pet over. You don't even know the car is running. There's actually a fear factor in electric cars. They're so silent. But what if we move past the electric car to the hydrogen car or the solar car? We will have a solar car one day. There's no question in my mind, looking ahead as a futurist, the day when the cars will be driven purely on solar cells that can charge and store energy and such, and that'll be another world. So the times they are changing. Let's put it to you that way. So, but let's live in the here and now right now. We have cancer, we have heart disease, we have Alzheimer's disease, we have so many other diseases that need research, need protective nutrients in order to, let us say, keep them at bay, which I've written about for many, many years. I was very interested in Alzheimer's disease 20 years ago. Wait, that's longer now. God, how does time move on like this? I'm talking before radio. I was in the Alzheimer's research area, and I don't know how I'm telling you this because I'm talking 35 years ago, which I can't believe because I'm in radio 24 years. So I'm talking 10 years before radio, I was involved with the Alzheimer's Research Institute. And I wrote a book called Reducing the Risk of Alzheimer's. Again, a popular book that was based upon the most advanced knowledge at the time. And I wrote all about the antioxidants that were known to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. Now, the mainstream physicians thought it was crackpot, crazy, made no sense. What do you know? Now, today it's become actually mainstream knowledge of taking certain antioxidants and having a certain kind of diet to reduce your risk of senility and Alzheimer's, which is a little different than senility. A lot different, by the way, in terms of the amyloid plaques. In other words, what can you do to resist the development or, let us say, postpone it, if that's another way to put it? Well, you could do a lot. So I've always been futuristic with regard to the issues of health and the environment, which is why this subject interests me. And it's something that I think interests more people than you may imagine, both in the media in general, the society at large, and specifically in talk radio. These are subjects that are not talked about. I don't think that they're the third rail of radio. I don't think I have to say Mueller or FBI or McConnell every 3 minutes in order to establish the audience. If that's what you need, I'm sure you can get it. If you think I'm going to do it, you're wrong, because I'm past it. I'm not doing it. When there is a breaking story about any of those topics, we'll cover it. But I'm not going to talk about it as though I invented the subject. Okay? I didn't invent the subject. It's going on and on and on and on and on. Okay? Dossier! Went on for weeks. Dossier! People, I couldn't take it anymore. Like everyone was an expert. Dossier! Like a spy novel. Dossier. What is a dossier? It's a piece of paper. It's a memo, idiot. Dossier. Why do you have to say dossier when there's an English word called piece of paper or memo? It's a dossier. Make it sound like you're a spy on the show Homeland. May I see your dossier, please? Speaking of Homeland, it's terrible this year. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. It's that HBO series. Oh, I don't recommend it. First of all, I'm not thrilled with her. She's hysterical. In every other scene, she is having a nervous breakdown from her manic depression or bipolar. You know, it's enough already. They push it in, and she needs a medication. It's old. Then I'm not interested in her children in Homeland. That's number 2. Then Saul Berenson is such a ham. He looks like a Yiddish actor from the Yiddish stage in the 19th century. What is he kidding? How did he write himself in? He's executive producer, Saul Berenson. He's a good actor. It's like a Yiddish actor of 100 years ago. The guy who plays the big spy in Homeland. But he became a producer of the show, and he wrote himself in as the hero of the show. He's locked up by a fascist government in America. Gee, I wonder who they were implying it was. And he's in jail, and then the opposition comes into the prison cell. They let him in federal lockup, and they give him an option. You can become the head of the National Security Agency. No, the National Security Advisor, Saul, if you do this or do that. And Saul, the character, says, I'll only do it if all the other people who are arrested with me are released at once. And, of course, they say, we can't do that. Well, no deal. A hero, like a cartoon. What does he think? He's on the stage on Rivington Street doing a Yiddish play? I'm supposed to cry in the theater at how heroic he is? The whole thing stinks. A lot of these series die after 3 or 4 years. They don't know how to continue it. And for me, it's a thumbs down on Homeland. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
It is the last gasp of this show today, and it's moving toward the end of the show here, 53 minutes after the hour. Soon people go to dinner, turn off their radios and televisions, and they resume normal life. So I'll be with you for the last few minutes of media consciousness, at least for my show. And the topics you want to talk about in the environment are salmon disappearing in the Columbia River, whaling, which I've talked about, Chesapeake Bay being decimated of certain fish, drilling on the East Coast. But I want to go to one political caller. Mark on WABC. What is your topic? Fire away, please.
Thank you. It's an honor to speak with you, and I mean it, because you tell the truth. And you're correct. We have no business being in Syria. I was part of the peace movement. I marched against the war in Iraq. As a Christian person, Dr. Savage, because...
Well, I'm very worried that neocons around Donald Trump are leading us into a war against Russia. We know that Schumer and Pelosi and all the Democrats, all of these peaceniks are desperate for a blowout between the United States and Russia. Well, they're just liable to get it. And I pray to God Trump does not get sucked into the Syrian conflict.
It's the same people, the neocons and the warmongers like Madam Hillary Clinton and others that you mentioned. They want to push this. We have to learn from our mistakes. This was a disaster.
Well, we already have a problem, though, going on in Syria. The Israelis overestimated their prowess, and they lost an F-16 the other day. So they're smarting, and they want war. You know that. Now I wake up and read that the head of France, Macron, threatens to bomb Syria. I read that the United States... in using an F-21, just destroyed a Russian battle tank in self-defense. Israel is being warned by Damascus of more surprises. War is afoot in Syria, Mark. It's a disaster for the world right now.
Dr. Savage, please, your listeners, let them think of the hundreds of thousands of Christians in Syria and others who will suffer as if they haven't suffered enough over the last couple of years.
Yes, you are correct. Leave it alone. Leave Syria the hell alone. And we have no business in Syria. We were there for one reason only, and that was to make sure ISIS was stopped. Is that correct?
That is correct, and thank God President Trump took care of those murderers. However...
Well, thank God President Trump and Russia took care of those murderers. But all along, Pelosi wanted war with Russia. Schumer wants war with Russia. How is it that social Democrats, socially liberal Democrats, so-called doves, are desperate for war with Russia? What, are they crazy?
Well, just ask them why they were pounding the drums for war.
Well, I've asked them 100 times, and the answer is simple. Follow the greenbacks. Think about the money that their constituents are going to make if there's a war with Russia. They are warmongers, every last one of them. And I hope Trump is not drawn into this battle in Syria. It's not our damn business. And we should stay out of Syria. That's how I see it. This has been great. Thanks for listening to the Savage Nation. Go visit me at michaelsavage.com. Get the free newsletter. And tomorrow, Ben Carson joins us to talk about an issue down home, which is homelessness in the United States of America. Be here or be nowhere.